have claimed that there are some similarities with a virus that was developed for horses in the First World War by the Germans. So I believe there's a German scientist who has been for decades working on that, claims that he's got evidence that it was somehow linked and evolved out of that virus that was initially designed to affect horses at a time when warfare was, cavalries were.
Sure, that was their big mode of transportation then.
Exactly. And but again, lots of questions about this whole HIV thing. But we certainly do know that the U.S. government back as early as 1969 that the Fort Detrick and the Germ warfare program was very interested in developing a new form of biological agent that would be refractory to the immune system. And that's on record. You can go to the Library of Congress and look at records of Senate Defense Committee hearings.
Speak up to Bob as loudly as you can. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, those documents are there in the Library of Congress. That the U.S. military themselves were very interested in developing a new form of biological agent that would attack the human immune system.
How easy is it for these things to get out in the public by mistake? A real, honest mistake?
Oh, well, there have been a whole bunch of real honest mistakes. That was one of the things that the Sunshine Project was looking into. There have been escapes of agents from universities in Texas, laboratories in California. Lawrence Livermore Labs sent some agents through the mail, FedEx package leaked, all kinds of security concerns that are there. We went to San Antonio, Texas, to an outfit called the Southwest Foundation for Biomedical Research, and they've got a very top-secret laboratory there. It's a BSL-4 lab, and it's the only privately held BSL-4 lab, we think, in the world. And BSL-4 is where they handle the most dangerous pathogens, fatal, no cure. It's really terrifying stuff they handle in there. And in Texas, this outfit is the only one that's private, has a BSL-4 lab. Usually it's universities or government operations, military operations. So we went down there, and we discovered that not only do they have a big BSL-4 lab there, they have the world's largest primate collection, which they do experiments on, and primates, baboons. Primates are of great interest because their genetic makeup is most similar to human beings. And we were down there, and we were chatting with a security guard because we looked, and there was just a simple wire fence. I mean, it looked like a real Mickey Mouse operation as far as security. And so I asked the security guard, any problems ever here? And he goes, well, the only problem is when one of the baboons escapes. And we actually checked it out, and they've had to capture a baboon running on the interstate there, and God knows what that guy was filled with.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if he, urinates into groundwater, bingo, bango.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. The biotech corporations that are involved in all of this, it's all about money. And, if things aren't being used, you're not making that kind of money, are you?
That's true. I mean, basically, undeniably, if you want to look at what the real legacy of the anthrax attacks was to create a climate that would put public support behind the development of vaccines to keep us safe. There is a book coming out next year by a very good Los Angeles Times reporter who has covered the anthrax stuff, David Willman, and his book is called Fear Incorporated, and I think that's a great title. It was the title of a series that he wrote for the LA Times. And I think that's what it's all about now. I think Fear Incorporated kind of sums it up.
Let's go to Queens, New York, east of the Rockies. Good morning, Ann.
Hi, George. You have a great show as usual. Before you were talking about the Carlisle, and I heard that they were losing money, and they were selling some of their stock to George Soros, and Moore, the one that wrote Sicko.
Which one? They're all sickos.
George Moore, the fat one.
Well, Michael Moore, I think you mean.
Yeah, Michael Moore. And the thing is, as far as Carlisle, it looks like it's not left or right. It's just rich people, it's powerful people. It's not. We can't even blame one group or the other.
Yeah, I think this issue cuts across sort of political grounds, national grounds, like Eric always says. It's not a Republican, it's not a Democratic issue, it's not an American issue. It's a global issue, and it's all about money. And there are these corporations that are benefiting, are being connected to all administrations, Republican, Democratic, Bush 2, Bush 1, Clinton, even Obama.
Yeah, Obama's an interesting one. His chief, one of his chief national security advisors during the campaign was a man named Richard Danzig. He was Secretary of the Navy under Clinton, and during the Bush years, among other things, he entered the private sector, and he's on the board of an outfit called Human Genome Sciences based in Maryland. And he's rumored to be the next Secretary of Defense when Gates leaves. At least his name is mentioned in the New York Times as such at one point. And he's on the board of that company, which has a $1.4 billion contract to develop an anthrax antibody. So, I mean, this allure of the biotech sector doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat. It's just part of the permanent setup these days. Probably.
I tried to get Michael Moore on the program a couple months ago, and we just can't get him yet. But he'd be a fascinating guest, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Next up, let's go to Las Vegas. Hello, Terry. It's your turn. Go ahead, Terry.
Hi. How are you guys?
Good.
I was just wondering, I've got MS, and a bacterial or viral infection will trigger an exacerbation. So is anybody tracking groups of people like that with underlying problems to see if you get a whole bunch sick, like this flu that's going around? I started off feeling slightly fluish, nothing major, and then I went blind in one eye.
Gosh.
And it came back. It's coming back. It's not 100% yet.
Well,
but,
that's good.
But that's what happens with MS, and I'm sure there are other things that, there were a few deaths because of people with underlying problems.
Well, what we don't know, Eric and Bob, we don't know how badly these viruses and these diseases are affecting people in day-to-day living, do we?
We don't know the full extent of what's escaped. We don't even know what they're doing. Not even sure where they're doing it. But the safety track record appears bad in cases we know in all parts of the country. So what I'm concerned about is that stuff is getting out there, and maybe the worst stuff is yet to come.
We're going to be back with final phone calls right here on Coast to Coast AM. Don't touch that dial. On our next Coast to Coast program, that'll be our Friday into Saturday morning show, Open Lines, plus a discussion about time traveler John Teeter. Are there any countries that are more advanced than the United States, Bob or Eric, in germ warfare?
Well, certainly we've probably got the biggest programs right now, but if you look at the South African example, which is interesting, there was a little country, 200 scientists, and they had a pretty sophisticated program that achieved things that surprised, apparently, a lot of American scientists who went and look at, when it was revealed what they were doing, went to see what they had been up to and were very surprised at what they had done. So it doesn't necessarily have to be very large to be sophisticated. and there are a lot of countries where we really don't